Hello everybody, hope you're doing well. Today I'm going to be doing a review of the new album by Chief Keef called 4Nem. So finally on my channel I get to talk about Chief Keef, and I feel like a kid in a candy store because Chief Keef is one of my favourite artists ever. Definitely one of my favourite rappers, so being able to talk about him would mean that I could go on a tangent and talk about him for hours and hours. But basically Chief Keef is a rapper who hails from Chicago, Illinois, and he basically started the whole trend of drill music. I know it's quite popular in the UK for having UK drill, but really drill, thanks to Young Chop the producer, and Chief Keef basically created this very unique style of trap music with very mechanical sounding beats and a very gang and violent officiated lyrics too. So we started doing this, made the classic album, in my opinion, Finally Rich. And from there, he basically just, I wouldn't say fell off, but he just stopped making music that you would assume the intended audience would enjoy. And he tried a whole load of different genres and ideas, became a producer himself, and ventured on to making different sort of music too. For example, his second album, Nobody, is basically a very depressive cloud rap album, which I absolutely adore. He eventually made this album, Thoughtbreaker, which is kind of an alternative R&B record and actually a very happy and exuberant listen. Again, one of my favourites ever. And we can talk for ages about all of the fantastic mixtapes that he's released as well. He's done a lot, let's say that. He's put a lot under his belt, and he's finally released this new album called 4Nem. And people have been saying like, oh, it's been ages since he's released an album, finally he's released an album. And it's like, come on, like, give a guy a break. He's released so many songs, never mind the songs that have been officially released. Let's not forget all of the sort of leaked tracks and stuff like that that you get on these bootlegs, which are hours upon hours in length. He's done his fair share of releasing music in a lifetime, but the guy's only in his mid-20s, and the fact that he started so young too proves that he could still release a career amount of music now, you know. So he's done a lot, but let's talk about 4Nem. So on 4Nem, this is kind of like a mixture of Chief Keef that's going on here, which is kind of unique. He doesn't usually do that. He usually has kind of one stylistic preference on a full project. But for this one, it's kind of mix and match. You get a lot of hard-hitting Chief Keef material, a lot of melodic Chief Keef material, and at the same time, there's a few instances of new territories being explored on this project too. Now, the choices for the producers on this project aren't entirely new. We've got the likes of Hollywood J, who's worked with Chief Keef before, as well as K.E., who, if you're unfamiliar with that guy as a producer, he's released so many fantastic instrumentals that have been really big in the sort of classic Dat Piff mixtape era, not just with Chief Keef, but the likes of Future and Gucci Mane as well. However, there is a new producer that Chief Keef has never worked on, at least I'm not aware of him working with him before, and that's, of all people, DJ Paul, who, if you're unfamiliar with him, is a producer and rapper who is famous, or kind of infamously known, in being with 3 6 or 666 Mafia, who are basically the pioneers of Memphis rap. This guy has a legendary and signature sound, and for him to be with Chief Keef, that's pretty exciting. As well as the sort of Memphis-inspired sound, we've also got some crunk elements to this project too, again kind of new for Chief Keef. And yeah, listening to this, it's not exactly Memphis rap, but you definitely get a lot of that sort of classic and gloomy and eerie sound, especially with the likes of songs like It's Your Job, which, as I'll go into later, is definitely a 666 Mafia inspired track. As well as that, there's also a track on here called Shady, which really has an excellent instrumental. I love this sort of Asian guitar that's going on throughout this track. It's very out of tune, but purposely done to give it this like really ominous sound to it that I really like. Now, moving on from the producers, we've got Chief Keef himself, who's also kind of changed too. Whether or not this is saying through his new territories being explored with the likes of crunk, like I've mentioned before, but I really don't think I've ever heard a Chief Keef project where Sosa himself is sounding as confident and mature as he does on this project. Now, he's always got this manic delivery. He'll never get rid of that because that's his style, and that's what I go to his music for. But listening to the first few tracks on here as well as the later crunked tracks which are on too, yeah, I think Chief Keef has this sort of very exuberant style which he hasn't really quite had in previous projects that really excel on this one. And it's fair play to Chief Keef to be so confident, because never mind where he's made it in terms of his money and such like that, but I'm more interested in seeing how much of an impact he's had on modern day rap music. And for that, he's definitely the grandfather of a lot of trap music and many other things that he's done years before many other more popular rappers, sad to say, nowadays, kind of copied off him. And he discusses this actually on a few tracks on here, especially the song like The Talk, where he's saying how he's been running the game so long that his legs have went numb. And another track as well where he talks about it quite a bit is a song called I Don't Think They Love Me. And speaking of lyrics, Chief Keef is full of quotables on here as per usual. Now, he's always had this sort of tongue-in-cheek sort of style to him, always had a bit of humour to him as well, and that might annoy a few people, especially when there's a few sort of introspective cuts on here. Yeah, you might feel a bit jarred when he says some quite interesting lines, so to say, but again, I don't know if I'm just giving him a pass here because I'm a Chief Keef fan, but it's something that I've kind of gotten used to. But lots of quotables that I could rattle off the belt. A new one I've just picked up recently that I liked, which is he stayed on the block like a Lego. But I want to praise his lyrics as well, because I don't want to say that he's just a joke. He's in fact impressed us the most on this album through his lyrical capabilities. He's got this knack for being able to make a cohesive story by just rhyming off one word, and a great example is a song called Yes Sir, where I think he does even more than a 16 bar, where he rhymes yes sir with a load of words, and then he rhymes no sir with a load of words at the same time. And if you're following it, I mean, he tells, like I say, a cohesive story, but at the same time, him being able to do that, like I say, is quite impressive. Chief Keef overall then is great on here, and I would like to say for the most part the instrumentals are overall great too, and you only need to hear the first track, Bitch Where, to get to know this. There's this fanfare horn section that starts the track off, and it's almost as if royalty is walking into the building. Well, is Sosa royalty? Depends on how much you put him on his pedestal. And on top of that, it's got an excellent punchy beat to it, and later on it's got these really haunting, ghostly female backing vocals at the same time, which is sort of interspliced and put in here and there. And for a track which is under 2 minutes, it's very versatile and a fantastic way to start the whole album. The horns continue on the second track, Tuxedo, which to me is equally as great. Tuxedo, who's a guy who's worked a lot with Chief Keef over the years, when he first comes on his feature, it just sounds amazing because it's got all this sort of reverb and echoey effects. It sounds like 15 Tuxedos have just stepped into the booth and just started rapping seamlessly at the same time. And what makes this song interesting is Chief Keef had the brilliant, weird, don't know, creative idea of going ha at the end of every line. It's almost as if Steve Urkel's in the booth as well, and he can't quite hear what Chief Keef said because he says ha after every line. Just again, you might find annoying, but I think is really cool. And actually Chief Keef finishes off his main verse by also going ha at the same time, so they both syncopate, and I think that's actually quite a cool moment in a way. The Talk is actually also one of my favourite songs on here, not only with what Chief Keef is rapping about, but again this instrumental, it's got this really cool arpeggiator which kind of sounds like it's like from the sort of 2000s. It could be featured in your stereotypical Matrix sci-fi sort of inspired movie, and the way it filters and goes into the left and right channel sounds awesome. So really recommend this because it's a headphone listen song, this one. So there's really two melodic Chief Keef songs on this album, one called Onward, which is technically the final track, and another one called I Don't Think They Love Me, and these two are fantastic. They're both similar in regards to having these gorgeous pianos going throughout the whole track, but they also have their own merits as well. So to talk about I Don't Think They Love Me, for example, even though the instrumental compared to Onward is a bit more stripped down, Chief Keef excels more on this track because he's just got a real knack for coming up with really good melodies, and I think the singing and just his whole presentation on this song is really good. I love his backing vocals that he does on here, and the fact that he does these melodic bang bangs, which is a famous ad-lib that he does, but the fact that he's turned it from sounding like a really macho sort of gangstery sort of thing to make it sound really apathetic and sad, like a really cool idea. I just love it a lot. The beat that comes in eventually on this track is really good too, but instrumentally I actually prefer the song Onward, which overall, again, great instrumental, but the synthesizer on here I love because it's like high pitched and whistly. It sounds like if a train could sing. Again, the lyrics are really good on this track. It's about Chief Keef basically sort of looking down on all of these doubters over the years who couldn't think that Chief Keef could make it to where he is, and he's kind of reflecting about all of his accomplishments that he's succeeded in having and where he sits in the present day. And for this to technically be the outro, it's making it a very optimistic sort of ending compared to the very warlike opener. And now for everyone's favourite partner review, including mine, the negatives. And this album, it has a few. Oh dear. And for me though, the negatives are unique because usually I complain about an album being redundant and a song not sticking out and stuff, and the songs definitely stick out like a sore thumb, the ones that I don't like on here, but it still makes it for an interesting listen because again, this album is quite diverse in its sounds, so it's got a credit even though it's a negative at the same time. So let's talk about a song which I dislike, a song called Ice Cream Man. I don't get the song. Is it supposed to be a sexy song? Is it supposed to be a sad song? I don't know, and I don't think the song itself knows what it's trying to be. The instrumental is really bare bones, and Chief Keef sounds so bored on his own song. It honestly just doesn't sound like the song's finished. And as well as that, the beat which eventually comes in at such a late moment and such a random moment. Again, it just feels like the producer just added it on randomly, just thinking, oh, this song's going nowhere. I know, I'll put a beat on it that makes it sound a bit better. I did say I know about the song I Don't Think They Love Me, where there's a beat that comes in later on that, but the song itself, I'm sorry, it's just the quality is much better and it's more impactful, whereas this, it's just simmering, it's not doing anything. It's just these bland pianos being played and not much else. It's just a weird track. Chief Keef as well on here is just weird too, never mind him sounding bored, but the lyrical topics, like he's gonna make the pussy ice cream? What? I've heard of making a pussy cream, but ice cream? You know, actually, I'm not going to talk anymore about that. I don't want to think more about that. And let's not forget the great lyric, I might go biking, I might climb a mountain, I might go hiking. Well, make sure to bring this song with you while you're going up the mountain and drop it off the edge of a fucking cliff. Now, this might surprise you, but the song I was praising before is one which is also a disappointment. The song Shady. This song, again, is a disappointment because, again, it just sounds unfinished. It's far too short. There's a beat, once again, that comes in at a really random moment, not impactful at all. Again, just makes it sound like it's just not finished. And Chief Keef is just not doing anything on this song. He's just kind of, it just sounds like he's ad-libbing a lot of stuff and not really saying anything. Like, fair enough if you want a freestyle, but he's just not saying anything of quality. And it's such a shame because it's got this really cool Memphis rap style where it's sampling a Memphis rap track in the backing, and this could have been a really big banger, and I just feel like it's just a dud. And then there's another song, What's Up, which once again, a beat that just comes in at the last second for no reason. Like, what's the problem with these beats? Are they self-aware? Do they have stage fright or something? Why are they coming in so late on really short tracks? And this song, once again, just sounds undeveloped. Chief Keef, again, it doesn't sound like there was any really much thought putting into this song. So it's a shame, but there is a few tracks on here, even though they are short, that just aren't of good quality compared to many other tracks on here. And many of you might disagree on this, which is totally fine, but the other track, and there's one other track that I'm not very big on, is the song Like It's Your Job, which is the other Memphis rap inspired track. And it's very Memphis inspired. Why? Well, because it basically completely takes the idea of the song Slob on My Knob, which is one of the bigger 666 songs that exists out there, and Chief Keef just takes the main melody of the chorus and the whole entire track basically, and bearing in mind this is 4 minutes, so it doubles in length than most of the tracks on here. It's just da 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 da. It's like you get a bit sick of it after 4 minutes, to be honest. Maybe it's just me. So yeah, there's a few tracks which I'm not big on, but because this album is so versatile in its sounds, it means that you might like them tracks, but of course it could be vice versa. You might not like the ones I like. But again, that's why this album's so good. It has a lot of variation, and it's why I like it so much as well. There's some of the best hard-hitting Chief Keef songs and some of the best melodic Chief Keef songs are on this album, and because of that, I think fans of Chief Keef who like particular styles that he's done will find something of merit to come into this album and enjoy. And it's also, I would say, one of the best, if not the best, album to start off with if you're getting into Chief Keef. You could start off with his debut, Finally Rich, but again, I think this has a lot of, you know, variation, like I've said, and it means that if you like the harder ones, then go for the debut of like his melodic stuff. Try the ones that I mentioned at the start, especially Thoughtbreaker, a very underrated project. I might talk about that in a future review. Yeah, so I'm going to end it there. I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10 overall. I did really enjoy this project, and that's it. Before I finish off the review, I just want to say sorry for the massive delay between reviews. Uni is uni, you know, I'm busy. But I appreciate you guys sticking around. Thank you for, wow, over 200 subscribers. That means a hell of a lot to me. Thank you so much for all of the really nice comments I've gotten as well while I've had my absence away from doing reviews. I try and respond, you know, and show my love for you guys. I really appreciate it. And even though I've got some, you know, planned projects in the pipelines, I probably won't have anything out until after Christmas. So I want to take this opportunity to say I hope you enjoy your holidays, guys. And that's it. Yeah. So thanks again for watching. Appreciate it. Hope you're taking care of yourselves. Bye for now.
Thanks for listening.